Hey there, I'm Neil. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm the host of my new podcast, Pause and Rewind. I'll be chatting to changemakers, thought leaders, and role models who all share a common goal. They're striving to make the world a more inclusive place. And let's face it, we need it. Each guest has a unique story when it comes to doing their thing, and we often know who people are in the now. But how much do we really know about them? Pause and Rewind takes a moment to explore the experiences in my guest's life that led them to where and who they are now. Because everyone loves an origin story. We'll dive into tales, anecdotes, and what makes our guests tick. So, are you ready to pause and rewind? Hey there, and welcome to this episode of Pause and Rewind. I hope that you're keeping well. I hope that you're keeping warm. And I hope that this conversation warms you up because was a truly wonderful conversation with my friend, Cindy Nehme. Cindy is the founder of Bērytī, a Lebanese restaurant based in Barcelona that celebrates Lebanese culture and Lebanese food. And trust me, the food there is delicious. But it also provides a safe space for safety, community, and celebration of queer Arabs in Barcelona. And I had the pleasure of hanging out there in December. I went there for a meal and a party. And oh my gosh, you have to go. You have to go. And we share more about how special it is during this podcast episode. Cindy had a challenging year last year. Not only did her home country of Lebanon experience airstrikes, but with her family still living in Lebanon, also, having loved ones affected in Gaza, with what's going on with the genocide there. There was also a fire in the restaurant. So Cindy has navigated, over the last year, some challenging moments. And she has done so with the utmost compassion and empathy, and also gratitude and humor. And we touch a lot on those during this podcast. Just reminder, please take care of yourself whilst listening. Some of the topics we do cover are challenging. So yeah, look after yourself. But this podcast was such a joy to record. I love being in Cindy's company. You'll hear that during the episode. And yeah, I hope you enjoy. Please do let me know what you think. Here it is. Cindy, it is so good to see you. Welcome to Pause and Rewind.
Habibi, thank you so much for having me. So happy to be here.
Yay, we got it in the diary.
Yeah. Thank you so much so I have a resolution for this year. I'm going to be very honest with you. My resolution is to try my best not to make people follow up with me. This is a big title for me, but I'm going to try and stick with it.
But I think people are actually okay with it. I never begrudge anyone a follow-up or two, just because life is so demanding.
I know, but I'm trying to put myself in other people's shoes, like this is like a disclaimer at the beginning when I meet someone and we want to do a project together. The first thing I say, I'm like, please remind me. I will be so thankful when you do. So just don't feel like it's a burden or whatever. But also I understand that it's my responsibility as well to just be aware of what I have to do, and just not let people follow up with me. So
Oh, that's lovely. Well, listen, absolutely no bother at all. I am always so grateful to be in your company, whether online or in person. And if I have to follow up for that, that's totally fucking cool with me.
Thank you.
With speaking about, life being so relentless right now, I always start with a big question. And so that is, what does the world look like for Cindy Nehme right now?
So I have to tell you, like I'm starting the year with a lot of peace, and this is very important, considering what happened last year. So very grateful for that, for that very present feeling of peace. I'm really looking forward for this year. We have a lot of projects coming up. I'm in a really good place, personally. The bistro is doing really well. It's getting back on its feet again. It's a lot of beautiful positive energy. So just as in a nutshell.
That's gorgeous. And last year was so tough, with the restaurant, but also what was going on politically. And I know that you are doing lots to kind of like, raise awareness and fundraise for Gaza. And, there's a lot going on in the world. And we had an event, just towards the end of last year where we opened up a space for dialogue with We Create Space. And we know that it feels like the world is just a shit show right now. So to be able to tap into that piece is great. And I know how important community is for
Yeah,
you.
yeah. I was going
Um,
to say the reason why there is so much peace, and I take that peace from the people of Gaza who are celebrating the ceasefire and have just started to grieving now, from the
mm,
people of Lebanon who have had their villages completely destroyed but still find the strength to go and raise funds to help other families to rebuild. And honestly, Neil, when you see that beautiful, beautiful spirit, you can't feel otherwise, honestly.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I love your love of people and community, and particularly, your roots. And we're going to talk a lot about your origin story today. Um, I know we were talking about it just before we jumped on for recording, but it was so nice for me to be in Bērytī um over during December, and I came for a meal with my friend Pete, and we popped upstairs to the little party space, and it was just so nice to be in that environment. What you have created for queer Arabs in Barcelona and allies and anyone else who walks through those doors, it's so special. You walk in and you feel at home instantly. But what I really loved is the food was gorgeous. Like everyone was so, so nice. It's so special. It's so adorable. And you go upstairs and it's like being in a living room.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, exactly. The reason why it feels so much like home because it's an extension of our souls, Pamela and I, like we never said to be restaurateurs, we're not chefs. What we're doing is that we're replicating our homes in
Yeah.
Barcelona.
It felt like a living room. It felt like a Lebanese living room with the different paintings on the wall and the artifacts, and people were upstairs, and I know like it's a great space, and there were loads of us up there dancing. The music was great. I can't remember what I know Ali was hosting, and I can't remember what the other DJ's name was, but when they were talking about the music, it was like, yeah, Lebanese pop trash, and it was just everyone was just having a really camp cheesy, brilliant time. It was lovely.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Like the idea behind the cabaret party came about because Pamela and I really missed Arabic music.
Yeah.
A very big part of our identity as queer people in the Arab world is our language. But we cannot really be queers in Arabic in our
Mm,
the world. So what that means is that we kind of have to um, gonna be like just put it on the side, compartmentalize it if you want, just put it on the side, forget about it, and just go on with our new Western lives. But it's there, because you dream
yeah.
in Arabic, you love in Arabic, you get upset, you feel in Arabic. And so for us, it was very important to celebrate queerness in Arabic.
I love it, and it is really like it's amazing to see. It's amazing to feel the pride and the love for your ethnicity, your roots, your origin, and even in the queer scene, there's still so many misconceptions around what it is to be a queer Arab, right? Like, it's very white centric, English speaking centric. And in London, we have a couple of groups. We've got a couple of Swana queer groups in London. And just how important those spaces are to come together and celebrate who you are.
100%, 100%, because there's a lot of like intersectionality, right? You have
Mm,
religion and then your sexual identity and then gender and then ethnicity. And so, how do you combine all of that? And for me, it's the language. When you celebrate the language, it kind of feels like it's an open invitation to
yeah.
everyone to feel celebrated, to feel seen. We are in the Arab world, I feel like we were very underground, very hidden,
Mm,
still are, and most of it. But so to be at the forefront and to feel like you are accepted, loved, celebrated in your own language, it's I really don't have the words for it. I mean, you saw the energy. This is why the energy is the
Yeah.
way it is.
Absolutely. You provide a space to be seen and celebrated for queer Arabs and everyone who walks through those doors. And it was really beautiful to see you being celebrated this year through the work with We Create Space, being named as one of the queer leaders, and just generally the reception that people who meet you like it's totally deserved. And yeah, just I love working with you and being around you in whatever capacity. And so yeah, thank you for all the work you do because it's
Thank
brilliant.
you so much. I think, like-minded people eventually find each other.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, I love it. I love it. I love it. It's so true. Cindy, I am so excited to dive into your origin story. Are you ready to pause and rewind?
Let's do this.
Here we go. Take me back. Tell me all about little Cindy.
Yeah. So I was born during the Civil War. Okay, so it's 1985. It was really like the peak of the Civil War, and we had to run away from our original home, which is in the Beirut suburbs to the north. To just like basically that was a family decision to keep the family alive. But towards the end of it, I we returned back to my family place, where my parents live right now, and we had to spend like almost a couple of years living in shelters and living in our family house's middle bathroom. It had four bathrooms, so the middle one, the orange one. So imagine we had just like mattresses all over the floor, our basic needs like water, some snacks, just not to have to just go circulate in the house a lot because um, the bombardments and the fighting was happening right underneath the building. It was really, really intense. So yeah, and then the Civil War ended in the 90s, like in 1990. And I had a really like beautiful childhood, I had to say, like just going to the mountains a lot. Like both my parents come from the north of the country. So spent a lot of my summers there between like olive groves and just in nature. Um, yeah, and this is mostly what I remember of my childhood. There's the war part, but also the family,
Mm.
village, nature part.
I mean, that's a lot for a 5-year-old, for a child up to five to go through. You hit 5 years old and there's a war, the war ends. And, what was your thinking around what was going on? Loving home, but all that going on around you. Do you remember what you thought at the time?
I remember that my mom, who is a very, very strong woman, shielded us from a lot of the fear and shielded us from a lot of the pain, but by not showing any single sign of fear. Like she was so strong and so protective. And looking back, I can't remember ever seeing her scared, or which now as an adult you realize that's not a good thing. but,
Yeah.
but I think at that time, when going through a war that was so intense, I think this is my parents' generations were really, really resilient.
Mm.
Like they were like in a fight or flight mode
Yeah.
all the time. And so, yeah, they shielded us a lot from that pain and from that fear.
Yeah. Have you spoke to them about that now, like looking back retrospectively?
Well, I had to because we went through the war also this
Of course.
this October, November. And honestly, Neil, like I can't believe their resilience.
Mm.
I have so much respect for their faith. Every time I used to call them, they will be like, "Don't worry, we've been through this before. It's gonna end.
Yeah.
Everything's okay." Can you imagine? I can hear the airplanes in the background of our video calls. There's no electricity. I have a lot of screenshots, so I'll share them with you of just pitch black screen, and my dad just being, everything's okay, don't worry about it, we're gonna be fine,
Mm,
it's gonna end soon. So
yeah, that's beautiful. Is that where you get your resilience from?
obviously, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I've heard you speak about particularly your mother before, and yeah, beautiful relationship. What's your favorite anecdote that you've been told about yourself from your parents?
That I would just wake up in the morning. I think I was maybe 6, leave the house, go do my rounds in the village, go see the neighbors, have some chocolate, some cookies, have lunch, and then come back around 6. That was like my routine as a 6-year-old child, which is weird, but it's like in a village context, kids are just like playing outside in nature. And my mom always tells the story about how just like I would leave in the morning and come back in the afternoon. And so when I became an adult and I had exactly that same routine, I'm like, how can you be surprised? Like you saw it happening in front of
Yeah.
you. So
I
yeah.
love that we see little Cindy so much now in terms of kind of like the way you care and show up for different people and balancing so many really special relationships. What was school like for you?
So I was like first of my class, I think, until I graduated from school. I always had really good grades, but I was also like one of the cool kids, I was really a troublemaker as well.
Okay,
Yeah, I
love that.
just like I okay, you have to know the context. I was in a nun school, in a Christian.
Okay,
And you can imagine for a teenager that that's not really ideal.
yeah, of
You
course,
want to
yeah.
experiment, want to try different stuff, and I always had my colleagues' backs, like my friends' backs, because I was the delegate of the class, like in 2, 3 consecutive years, like especially in high school. And whenever went wrong, I would always be responsible for it.
Hmm.
I always kind of had this kind of like, I got it, I'll protect you, kind of way.
Yeah, can definitely see that now as well.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. What did you when you think back to school, what was the plan? What did you want to do when you grew up? What was the vision?
So I really didn't have any specific idea. Like it reminds me a lot about this Oscar Wilde quote, like if you know you want to be like a painter or like a baker or like a businessman, that's your curse because you will become it. But if you don't know what you want to be, you can be anything, and this is your reward. And my life is a bit like this. Like I'm just gonna count for you the things I've done already in my life, okay? Because
Yeah.
I feel like I've lived like 100 lives already, and I still have so much to live. So I've been a waitress, and I've been a kids entertainer, a mascot in Doha in Qatar in a mall. I've been an interior coordinator. I've been a music label coordinator. I've been an artist, um, admin. I've worked in marketing. I've been a writer. I used to write blogs for business, advertising, and then I quit to open a restaurant. I did a lot of volunteer work in between. Now I'm back to advertising for now. We'll see.
I I think that it's so important to just tap into what you've just said about the Oscar Wilde quote, and that's your curse, because we're so often told that you have to decide. And at a young age, who are we really to decide what we're going to do?
Yeah,
I had another guest on the podcast was like, your adult self needs to tell that younger self to kind of like, hold on a minute, you don't know what you're going to be, and the demands we place on ourselves when we're younger through to when we're older. But for some of us, unless you want to be, I don't know, a lawyer or a doctor or something,
yeah.
life can just go in so many different directions, either with education or the experience or random chance. But we don't often give ourselves the flexibility.
100%. You're absolutely right. I was watching a talk by the ex Disney director of creative excellence, and in his talk, he says that he starts his talk with, "Who was here once a kid?" You know, like, and it's a room full of people, and he gives this example, like at Christmas, he gives his nephew like a gift, right? His 5-year-old nephew a gift, and his nephew sees this car, this amazing racing car. He plays with it for 5 minutes, drops it, and continues playing with the box. Why? Because the box can be anything he wants to be.
Yes.
And I think our education system kills that for us. You know, they frame us, they kind of put us in this very, very narrow kind of framework. And so as an adult, we have to, and now because I work in creativity, to unlock your creativity, you have to go back to that boundaryless kind of setup.
Yes. Yeah, I have a wonderful friend called Jasmine, and actually I've referenced her a couple of times on this podcast. She's an artist, she's also an engineer and a scientist, and she talks about the need for adults to tap into this sense of play. And so quite often in my work around inclusion and belonging, I talk around this sense of play and creativity and how important it is. I think it's education systems around the world, right, that really kind of like limit it according to qualifications and achievements and intellect and creativity and is intellect in itself, and I think that's so often overlooked.
Yeah. Bueno, Einstein said it, no, like creativity is intelligence having fun.
Yes, and we need fun. We need fun, particularly when the world is the way it is, right? We need to tap into that sense of joy. Um, let's I just want to take it back to teenage Cindy. You know, I'm kind of got the sense of who you were, smart as hell, bit rebellious, little bit of a troublemaker, but also kind of someone that really kind of like protected and fought for people. We see it all now. What was teenage Cindy like? It's obviously a very formative time. I guess what I'm asking is, what were your teenage years like, and where did queerness come into things?
Yeah. So my teenage years were mainly about friendships, I
Hmm.
think. And most of the friends I made then are still my very close friends until now, you know? And I personally think that's beautiful.
Yeah, it is.
I was in a rock band when I was a teenager.
What?
Honest. I was introduced to Pink Floyd by my dad when I was like 12, like Dark Side of the Moon. And then I met a band online, and we started our own progressive rock band, and we played in venues and high schools, and it was really awesome, honestly.
That is so cool.
Really, really cool. Yeah. So yeah, mainly I would say my teenage years were around music and around my friendships, and dating happened later for me. Like
Yeah,
at the beginning of my 20s. This is where really the queerness started to happen. I mean, I've always had, like crushes, but nothing was ever serious,
yeah.
especially because I don't know about you, and I will ask you, but for me, in that context, I always thought I was the only one, I don't know if that
Yeah.
happened to you growing up.
Well, I knew there was someone in our village as when I was a teenager. There was someone in our village, and before that, I was very much like kind of I didn't really have girlfriends or anything or boyfriends in primary school. I just wasn't. It just wasn't a thing. I was just
Yeah,
me, like this creative, weird little kid. I guess when I was a teenager, there was a gay boy in our local village, and I went to a born again Christian school,
yeah,
and we were told that we had to pray for him. And so very much kind of like there was already an embedded sense of shame,
yeah.
and that it wasn't okay to be that way. We didn't really use the word queer back then, but it wasn't okay to be gay. And so I knew that I wasn't the only one. I knew I had those feelings, but I guess I just had to shelve them for quite some time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think it was the same for me, like I think it was only when I started driving, it was only when I moved to Beirut because we used to live in the suburbs, where I realized that, wait, there's like a really big gay club in Beirut. I
Yeah,
want to check it out. And this is when you understand, oh, like there is actually a really big community here.
yeah.
Now I started.
I always think that we often think that people know people know instinctively from a young age and stuff. But sometimes I think that most of us just really, as queer people, we know that there's something different, and I talk about it a lot on here and in other conversations. We just don't have the language and terminology for it. But actually, that full realization for many people doesn't come till quite a bit later.
I completely understand that, because also
Mm.
we didn't have any representation. Like today,
Yes, it must have been really limited where you were.
we're limited. Like I remember for me, the first time I ever saw two women kissing was Tattoo, for crying out loud.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean? Like,
What an
um,
album, though. What an album.
I still listen to it until now.
Same,
You know?
same. Brilliant album.
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, just to tell you that honestly, we grew up nothing on the television, nothing in the cinema, nothing in music, nothing in publications or books. And even in books, like when you think about French literature, like there were a lot of like nom de plume, no? Like a lot of like authors who were queer, but they had to kind of hide it out in a way.
Mm,
So nothing was as explicit as, for example, how it is for this generation now.
yeah, yeah. Um, I'd love to ask, what were the early conversations with family and friends like when you started to establish your queerness and realizations?
Honestly, the reason why I am this confident is
Hmm.
because of them. The
Yeah,
amount of love, especially like now, I remember two very specific friends in my teenage years who would just like make me feel so at ease in whatever context, in whatever environment, and with parents, with family. Like they made it so they normalized it so
mm,
much even before it was normal for me, you know.
yeah,
And this is why I speak a lot also about the importance of allies because they've had a tremendous big role to play in my life.
yeah. That's beautiful. Beautiful to be supported. And like you said, when other people step up, even when even more than you realize you even needed, that's really beautiful. You've
Yeah.
shared your wealth of career that you've had in so many different kind of like formats. What was the early days like? What was the first big job?
So for me, my first big job was so what happened is that initially I wanted to leave Lebanon when I graduated school. I wanted to go to Canada because in Lebanon we always seek safety, because we
Mm,
understand we live in a country where it's very volatile, right?
yeah,
And it was usually Canada is a good destination, because you can get a passport relatively in a short period of time. It takes you 3 years as a Lebanese to get there, especially if you go and study there. So um, it felt like a good plan. My parents weren't really fans of the plan because obviously, like Canada is very far away from
yeah,
Lebanon. So we kind of reached an agreement where I would just graduate university in Lebanon and then go look for some kind of masters or like some kind of um, diploma in Europe. And so this is what I did. I studied music production in France after I graduated university. And my first big job was working at an indie music label in Beirut. And that was 2009. 2008,
yeah.
2009. Um, that label unfortunately closed eventually, but at the time, it was the one behind the best underground Lebanese and Arabic music, and it's really, really cool to have been part of it.
That's such a cool first big job to have.
Yeah.
Did it tap into the kind of like the artist in you?
Absolutely, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Because I figured like it was my biggest break to be in the music scene supporting underground musicians, which is I have a lot of respect for. And this is
Yeah.
something that you continuously see in my work.
Yeah, for sure. What happens next?
So next, the label closes, and then I joined one of the first startups in Lebanon that had to do with ecotourism, and this is where also like my love for my country like
Mm,
blew up because I got to discover it through the eyes of foreigners. which is weird. But it really made me appreciate it a lot. And so I was like a marketing coordinator, like also a trip coordinator, a travel advisor. Had to work a lot with local influencers. Had to travel the country, to discover it.
Yeah.
I did that for almost like 4 years. And then afterwards, I decided that I wanted to start my own production label, if you want. I wanted to create a platform for female DJs to be celebrated. That failed epically. you know, it's again because Lebanon is very volatile country. Like our first event was amazing; it was sold out. The second one, the eve of the second one, we had a very big bombing in Beirut, and so
Mm.
obviously that was canceled. And so yeah, I left that and joined one of the biggest advertising agencies in the world.
Yeah. Failure is something that, is so important to talk about. And, I often think about failure we need to fail, right? We need to fail because actually we learn more from failing than we do by succeeding. Is there a moment, and obviously thank you for sharing that one. Is there a moment in your career that felt like a failure, but
Yeah,
looking back, you realize it was such an important step for you?
yeah. So I have a lot of I do a lot of presentations and workshops for teams and mentoring, and I have a slide that says the F word, and the
Okay.
F word is failing. Because in my culture, there's a lot of taboo around failing. So that's
Okay.
never mentioned. You always have to be an overachiever. Again, it all goes back to Lebanon being unsafe. And so you have to make something out of yourself to
Yeah.
secure a future and blah, blah, blah. So for me, failure was never an option. And that was my first interaction with failure. Those events who I thought, at the heart of them, the mission was super groundbreaking, super
Mm.
important, to promote female DJs. But I was really young. I didn't have experience. Now looking back, I understand it was like really a really big learning experience. But my second biggest failure for me, and this is the first time I talk about it, I was the youngest director in my agency network. I was probably 28. And I went from being this creative genius who is just creating these amazing campaign to leading a team, to being a director. And that was an epic fail for me. I was not
Yeah.
ready. I was young. I didn't have the experience, but also I never had a good manager to look up to ever.
Right.
And so I promised myself that I'm going to be the director I never had. And this is where the work started.
Wow, there's so much I want to unpick in what
Yeah.
you've just said. There's so many exciting nuggets of information about you. Firstly, that advocating for female DJs is still a problem now when you look at DJs around the world, right? Having running the sober clubbing event that I run, one of the reasons that Emma, my co-founder, wanted to set up an event is because she was so sick of being invited to perform at gigs,
Yeah.
but always as the opening act, so performing to an empty room, right? But the headliners would always be white white men, right? White straight men mostly. And
Yeah.
so to think that you were doing that really, really early on and definitely not a failure. And it just shines through in the work you do now, because I know that Bērytī is predominantly female led and run and championed. And I know how important that is to you. So that coming out and that looking back at that second failure and when you're thrown into a situation without the right support, it's
Mhm.
really hard to bounce back from that.
Yeah, I really it really took a toll on me because I was dealing with both failing as a director and my point
Yeah.
of view. I don't necessarily think that that was a shared, reality
Mm.
with either my company or like the agency or the clients or whatever. But I knew that this is not the Cindy that I know, and this is not the Cindy that I know she's capable of. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It took a really, really big toll on me, and I was dealing with that and my first burnout. And so I resigned and I took like a 6 month sabbatical where I volunteered to be able to heal from that. It was
Yeah.
really, really tough on me.
It's so important to talk about instances like that because I think that burnout is so real. We were talking about it just before we jumped on to record. And the pressure that the pressure that it can place on us when we're put into positions when we're not ready, but also how long it takes to recover and the long-term toll of it on self-esteem, of confidence, on achievements. What was one of the biggest lessons that you took from it? And I'd love to also know what volunteering looked like because that sounds really cool. I'm a huge advocate for volunteering. So,
Yeah, I think for me, like the biggest lesson for me is to make peace with failing.
yeah,
It was, like it was the first time where I learned how to accept it and I learned to understand what it means. Failing does not break you. Failing does not make you a failure. This is very important. You know,
yeah,
failing does not mean that you can't get up on your feet and do better. It's just really understanding what failing means. And I don't know about you, Neil, but for me, the best way for me to heal is to help others. I think they do it a lot in AA, no? Like you put that energy into helping other people and helping other projects. And that helps you kind of make peace and understand and grow. And yeah, I think like so what I did is that I volunteered at one of the biggest marketing events in Europe. It was called Engage. That was in 2016. And I went for a week and it was great. I did
yeah,
great. You know,
yeah.
I just gained back that energy that I needed to move on.
I know how important volunteering is for you, and it does. It connects you, it brings you in tune with giving back, which is so important, particularly in the work that you do and your values and everything. And all through COVID as well. I know that you were volunteering was really important to you all during COVID. And I do really believe in the power of healing when it comes to giving back and connection.
Yeah. I think for me, first of all, it's understanding your privilege.
Mm,
And once you realize honestly how good you have it, it's important to pay it forward. And for me, volunteering initially comes from my parents. They're very humble people. They come from the humblest of background, but any second, any opportunity they had to do good, they never hesitated, even if they had really, really so little. And for me, that stays with me, like
yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's so beautiful. I'm really getting a feel for your parents and as a result of you as well. Um, Barcelona.
yeah.
Why Barcelona? I know that, Barcelona, I know that Lebanon is home, and I guess Barcelona feels like home from home. What drew you to Barcelona?
So when I first came here, I came as a visitor. I was young. I think I was maybe like 27 or
Mhm.
28. And I fell in love with the energy of the city. For me, Barcelona is what Beirut can be. What
Okay.
Beirut needs to be in the future. It's because we have a lot of common things, the weather, the energy of the people, the amazing food, the openness, the welcomeness.
Yes.
The I never felt like, even like from day one, I felt super integrated and welcome, and I never felt that anywhere else. And
It
so,
is a gorgeous melting pot of people and energy.
yeah, 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 100%. And I left Beirut at a time I had a really good life in Beirut, like career-wise. So yeah, professionally, socially, and Beirut was in a really, really good place in 2017. But I figured that I want to start building a life for myself. I just didn't see it there, you know?
Yeah.
And if I wanted to choose a new city to start from, I wanted it to have that kind of same vibe, that kind of same
Yeah.
energy, you know? And Barcelona for me felt like the obvious choice.
Yeah. It's such a I love it. Like it's my, at some point I will live there. I loved spending so much time there last year. Um and then I guess with Barcelona, Bērytī, yourself and Pamela, what what was the aha moment that you decided to open a restaurant and space for people?
So initially, the plan was let's go to Barcelona, open a restaurant. We didn't have
Yeah.
a blueprint. We didn't have a business plan. We didn't have, it was for us like it was
Just
very big title.
yeah.
And also like what could go wrong kind of thing. I think what the reason why we did it the way we did it is because Pam and I are completely two different people. I'm a jumper and she's a parachute, you know?
Okay. Okay.
I would just not think twice. I'll just go for it, which helps the parachute because the parachute has to think 500 times before making any decision because of anxiety, because of
Yeah.
like, weighing all the options. But also, the jumper needs a parachute, otherwise, you're going to splash wide open on it.
Yeah. I
So,
love this analogy. I've never heard this analogy before. It's brilliant.
so for us, it was very clear because, we didn't speak the language.
Yeah.
We didn't have legal papers to be employed. We had a business visa. So we knew the only way for us to start was to start our own thing. So we walked Barcelona for almost 2 months, barrio by barrio, neighborhood by neighborhood, because we were like, okay, if we were starting a business here, we want to understand how each street breathes, where do people go out, how do they live. And then eventually we found that space in Gracia and we were like, oh my God, this is it. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, we didn't speak the language. So we had to fire 4 project managers on Google Translate. And it's like, imagine 2 women with the frustration and all of that and working with a group of builders who are speaking Spanish, who are just
Mm,
taking advantage of you because, you are women. What would you understand about interior or architect or taste or
yeah.
design? So yeah, I mean, we built a place. We had an army of women with us, honestly, community again.
Yeah.
We
It
tapped
was.
into every single person we know and their expertise. And oh my God, Neil, they all showed up for us.
Yeah.
Everyone, from the branding to the PR to the interior design to training to all of our friends came to the opening month, all of them. We can count almost 20 people who came, who were bartending, who were waitressing, who were doing the prep in the kitchen.
Yeah. So beautiful. And what was the initial response like from the neighborhood?
So what we did is that because we understood that we didn't know anyone and no
Yeah.
one knows us, we felt like, you know what, let's do it the old way. Let's do it how they do it in Lebanon. Let's just go knock on everyone's door, introduce yourselves with an invitation and be like, hey, we're inviting you to this space that's opening in a couple of weeks. And this is what we did. We went all around Gracia. We had 200 invitations. And we went door to door. Hi, we had 4 words of Spanish. Hola, dos chicas, invitación. Restaurante. I swear. I still have it. I still have the invitation.
It should be framed and put on the wall in the in
Yes,
the
yes,
in the
Pamela has it framed actually. And so we went door to door. We invited people, and you will not believe it. It was 25. It was May 25th, 2018. The place was packed. We had 100 people showing
yeah.
up to this space that was created by 2 Lebanese women that no one knows.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And continues to be such a place of heart and warmth for the neighborhood as well. Like I don't know, I remember watching your We Create Space Queer Leaders video last year and seeing you walking around talking to them. I know it's a video and I know it's production, but it was just like you just got the warmth from it and yeah, a real place in the community.
No, for us, it was super, super obvious. You go to someone with your heart open, they will open
Yes.
your heart. If you go with a closed, with a closed chest, with fear, with you're gonna have the same. And we understood, Pamela and I, that it was up to us to be as open, as loving, as welcoming as possible, because it's also our nature. Like we're not faking it, you know.
Yeah.
Um, because this is where we want to live. This is where we want to build our life. And yeah, so this is why during COVID we just shared with the neighbor that we are mobilized to doing, to buy any type of medicine that any of the elders need. Because remember, at the time, elders were recommended not to leave their homes. We started learning Catalan to be able to, communicate with them.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Just seeing little Cindy and doing your rounds and kind of like,
Exactly.
bringing that bit of home in Lebanon to your home in Barcelona. So it's wonderful. Did you ever think that you'd kind of like find a destination in doing something so inclusive?
So initially, the plan was to open a restaurant to
Yeah.
celebrate Lebanese culture,
Yeah.
But it was only when we started the operation that we understood that, wait a minute, there's a lot of Arabic queer community here that doesn't have a voice. Why? That doesn't have a space. Why? That is not celebrated. Why?
Mm.
This is why for us it was like an organic shift from celebrating Lebanese culture, which we understand it's celebrated in a lot of places. So it doesn't
Yeah.
really need us anymore. But
Yeah.
where we're needed is our queer community.
Yeah.
And we shifted, the whole thing into really providing the space to or the Arab queer community to feel safe and celebrated. And it was an organic shift. Honestly, it was not
Yeah.
part of the plan.
I mean, it's a beautiful shift, but actually part of a massive shift in Barcelona because Barcelona, whilst being very LGBTQ plus friendly, the queer scene in Barcelona, and I've been going to Barcelona for many years now, has always been predominantly built for men,
Yeah.
for gay men. And actually, you've seen a shift in Barcelona with lots of the different venues, with Candy Darling, with yourselves. Um, there's been a shift, and it's so a much needed shift.
100%. I see now the projects that are popping up in the city
Yeah,
to celebrate Arab queers, and it humbles me and it
yeah,
fills me with so much joy.
yeah,
Yes, more love,
yeah.
for culture. Yeah.
Definitely, and for queer women as well. In
Yes.
Barcelona, not just We Create Space, but other organizations as well. And moving away, it's not just a place for circuit gays and circuit parties. It's so much more than that now, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful to see. There's a place for that, and it's very fun. But it's really lovely to be able to walk into those venues and feel actually you can see the whole community represented here. So yeah,
Yeah, but it goes back to representation again.
yeah,
I
for
don't
sure.
think we see much of Swana queers in the circuit gaze.
No, not at all.
So you know what? We're gonna do it.
Create your own spaces. And it's needed, and it's brilliant to see. I have I've got a couple more questions for you in this segment. Does happiness and success look and feel how you thought it would?
So I had to redefine what success means to me throughout the years. So in my late 20s, I had reached really like the peak of my career, the fortune, the fame, the awards, all of that.
Mhm.
And I think with Bērytī and with my move to Barcelona, I had to redefine success. And what it means to me today is health, happiness, my beautiful friends around me. And honestly, this is my wealth, Neil.
I love that. I love that.
What is it?
Looking back, you just said about all those awards and the accolades and thinking that that was your version of success and to where you are now. Looking back so far, what are you most proud of to date?
The person that I am, my growth. Like it's very easy when you have so much to become a completely different person. And I love how your intuition, your gut, your soul finds a way to take the steering wheel and just to put you back on track.
The House of Happiness is London's ultimate sober clubbing extravaganza. We're led and delivered but created for all, whether teetotal, sober curious, or just taking a booze snooze. We love a day rave, and on a Saturday afternoon you can expect banging house tunes, DJs on decks, dancers on podiums, and a fully stocked alcohol-free bar. Flamboyant, bold, with a glitter station to boot. We're all about safe, inclusive fun, and we even have a pre-meet so that you can make new sober buddies before you hit the dance floor. Grab your tickets from Instagram now at House of Happiness Official, and we'll see you on the dance floor. Are you ready for some quick-fire questions?
Let's do it.
What album, book, or movie has had a lasting impact on you?
So they all come, well, beside the movie, I would say, both of my parents are teachers, so I learned a lot from them, and they have a beautiful impact on my upbringing. So I would say book, The Prophet, Gibran Khalil Gibran, the famous Lebanese poet, because it was quoted, and it is still quoted so much in our home. His philosophy is a lot about freedom, a lot about openness, a lot about kindness. And Bērytī, actually, the reason why it's called Bērytī, it's because he has one very famous saying where he says, "You have your Lebanon, and I have mine. Your Lebanon is a Lebanon of war, of destruction, of of all of that, and my Lebanon is a Lebanon of peace, of openness." And for us, we wanted to create our Beirut, our version of Beirut, the Beirut that is about inclusivity, about openness, about celebration, about everyone is welcome, you know? So book, Gibran Khalil Gibran, The Prophet. Album, Dark Side of the Moon. This is my father's impact and influence. I can't believe he gave me that tape. It was a cassette tape. I was 12. He's like, "Why are you listening to this pop thing? Listen to proper music." And I'm ever grateful for him for doing that.
Brilliant.
And movie, I'm a very big fan of Asian cinema and Asian storytelling. And I would say Old Boy is one of my favorite movies of all time. Have you ever seen it?
No.
I would. It's violent in an Asian way, violent, but the storytelling is absolutely marvelous.
What's a saying you live by and one that you'd put in the bin?
Pay it forward. Pay it forward for me is I feel like this saying is renewed. It's like when you have a subscription and it's automatically renewed every year.
Yes.
For me, pay it forward is that it's really understanding my privilege and really making sure I pay it forward in any way I can. And the one that I'm very happy to get rid of is loving unconditionally. I think a very big part of my growth and therapy was to understand that love is an action and
Okay.
not a very big title that you just distribute left and right. And it makes me happy to feel that way.
Action. Like when you're talking, I'm hearing, when you're talking about the parachute and you're the jumper and the love and the doing and just taking chances. Like the way that you show up is through action.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
That's
agreed. And I think that we probably quite aligned in this is that action over perfection every day.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I hope you get to speak to Pamela one day because hers is a marvelous story, honestly, about perfection, about deconstructing perfection, about creating a life and creating a beautiful life and a beautiful business while dealing with anxiety and depression. And she's really an inspiration, honestly.
Yeah.
Honestly. So back to perfection, I think I saw what perfection can do, how harmful it is. And it's very, very important to shift from perfection to action.
Mm. So important, so important. Um, what's been the best adventure of your life so far?
Barcelona.
Barcelona, and
It
still continues to be.
continues. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. I love it. There's just so much to see and so much to feel all the time. Yeah, it's such a special place, and you're so part of it. What three words would you use to describe you and your origin story?
So for me, it's family, it's gratitude, and humor. For me, humor is a trauma response, but it really helps me navigate life. And so
Yeah.
it's important that it's part of my day to day.
I love that. And I know that you host many comedy nights at Bērytī, and I guess that part of it is that, right? Part of it
Yeah,
is it brings people together. It's important to laugh.
it's very important to laugh. When we were organizing the last comedy night with Reem. Reem is a fellow Lebanese friend who lives in Barcelona, who is from the south of Lebanon, and so I was coordinating, the event with her, and she replied a day after or 2 days after, and she's like, "Cindy, I'm really sorry, I'm replying late, but we just learned that my grandfather and my father's homes have been completely destroyed. So sorry, I couldn't get back to you. Back to the event. Yes, definitely, let's do it. I can't wait. I can't wait to make everyone laugh." So it's like back to resilience, Neil.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep. And then, laughter, we've spoken about burnout, but laughter has been shown to be one of the so preventative and healing from burnout as well as trauma, as you've just mentioned. So, yeah, yeah. Find time to laugh. Let's fast forward a little bit. What exciting things do you have coming up?
so last year we launched the first Arabic Pride,
Cool.
and I can't wait to make it bigger, better, louder this year. And I think this is going to be the main project for this year. I'm very excited about that.
That's so cool. Can't
Yeah.
wait to see it.
Yeah.
What brings you joy?
Um, Walking.
Hey, love it.
Walking, being in nature, looking at the sky, really like it's the little things, Niels. I really, really don't want much. And I would say really helping the people.
Yeah.
These are like the two major things that make make me feel good, like actually good.
Yeah. And I can imagine from your gorgeous balcony in Barcelona,
Yeah.
looking at the sky is just would be a dream.
Yeah. This
Yeah.
is why I decided to go live in the woods.
Yeah. I know. Yeah, I can picture it at night. In fact, I've seen it at night. I know how beautiful it is.
Yeah.
What takeaways do you have for anyone listening wanting to create something inclusive, whether that's an event, a space, a business?
Yeah. I have a couple of things actually, like now after my experience. The first thing I would say, our culture and our society is very much into celebrating the youngest entrepreneur or the youngest whatever. But how about if you start something at 40, at 50, at 60? That needs to be celebrated for me. And so the first thing I would say is that whatever you can dream, you can make it, no matter your age. Just do it. The second would be practice gratitude. One of the things that has helped me a lot in navigating life, especially last year, is gratitude, is waking up and understanding honestly how rich I am, with the little that I have, which is more than enough. And surround yourself with people who just love you and help you grow.
Whether that's a professional venture or personally, absolutely. Yeah.
Exactly.
Do you have any final words of encouragement or wisdom to help anyone get to wherever they're going?
Um, I practice self-love a lot, you know. I know we uh we all try to be good people in the end. I really believe in that, you
Mm.
know. Sometimes we fail, sometimes we do better than other days. Um, for me, self-love is where everything starts.
Same. How did you first start tapping into self-love
Therapy.
therapy?
Yeah, therapy. I saw glimpses of it in my mom. And I felt like there definitely needs to be more to that. And my way of understanding it was to deconstruct myself as an adult, you know? And wow, it's beautiful. It's such a beautiful journey. It's so rewarding. The amount of love that I have for people is that much because I have equally, if not more, for myself.
That is a beautiful place to finish. And I often talk about with self-love comes the self-work. And
Mm.
I through kind of like, being sober and getting to know myself and doing the work, I've
Yeah.
got to a point where actually I probably like myself more than I've ever done. And I'm not, it's a journey. I think it's a journey and it's not a linear journey, right, with self-love. Um, but I do think the way that I show up now is so much more effective and warm and accepting of other people because I've reached that point with myself.
And I can tell, you know, when I look at you and the way you speak and the kindness that emanates out of you, just like, you can touch it, you know.
Yeah,
It's not in your head, it's not something that you feel. It really just goes beyond your physical persona. And
yeah. Oh, well, self-love all the way, people. Cindy, I am so grateful to spend this time with you. I love your work. I love you to bits. And yeah, I think just keep on doing you. And I can't wait to spend more time with you this year.
you too, Habiba. I can't wait to see you. Thank you so much. I'm sending you so much love for this beautiful podcast. Please keep doing the things that you do. And yeah, so much love for you. I can't wait to hug you soon in
See you
Barcelona.
soon. Big hugs. Bye. It was so beautiful to spend this time with Cindy learning more about her. I have this image of little Cindy doing the rounds in her local neighborhood and visiting people and checking in on them and just reflecting on that and the Cindy we are now. And as she said, that is who she is and that's who she's always been. And I love how that shines through and her love of community. Um, Talking about failures and success and overcoming this taboo of failure, from where she's from, and through to redefining what success is for her. Success for Cindy now, and again, speaks to all of those things, is health, happiness, and friends. And as she says, this is my wealth. Not only did I love hearing her talk about how proud she is of herself and the wonderful person she's become, but also just her love of people. The way that her and Pamela went round knocking door to door in Barcelona as they were settling in, and they have established themselves in the hearts and at the heart of their restaurant in Barcelona. Um, and again, I can't say it enough, but do get yourself there. The three words Cindy uses to describe herself and her origin story: family, gratitude, and humor. And all of those were so present throughout her story. And just hearing the respect and the love she has for her parents and the way that they have instilled such this sense of resilience in her and the respect that she has for their faith as well. Cindy, I am so grateful for you. Thank you so much for being a guest on Pause and Rewind. Thank you for listening. Please do like, subscribe, and share. Comment if you can, and let's get these stories out there that where they deserve to be, in people's hearts and in people's minds. So that's all from me for now. Thank you so much. Stay tuned for more, and I'll see you soon. Cheers.